Do you remember the first day that we met? I just walked up to you and I asked.
Do you want to be friends?
You said yes.
When you turned 8, I gave you that huge box of crayons. Do you remember that? Wow, that's so good.
You were the first. And you broke so easily.
The Demogorgon. It got me.
I'm not afraid anymore.
Have you ever felt two emotions at once? Emotions like happiness and euphoria that's also mixed with the scent of grief and longing? Well, that is what we call nostalgia. And in the world of Stranger Things, a world where the 80s can spark longing for those who lived through it and those who hope to witness it, we can see that each character's journey had to confront very difficult realities. And something I wanted to explore in this show is how nostalgia can shape these characters' memories for better and for worse. But before we get into nostalgia, let's step back and deconstruct how it all starts with Chapter 1. Memory. Whenever we decide to keep a memory, we can sometimes be very specific about what we hope to remember. For a show like Stranger Things, some of the characters' most positive memories included the homecoming dance, playing D&D, or the aftermath of Vecna's death. Each memory signaled a triumph that can never be forgotten, but there's something about a negative memory that is very hard to forget. Some of those memories include Hopper losing his daughter Sarah, Eleven's tragic backstory, or the night Will disappeared. Memory can carry a lot of weight, and as we see in the show, each character's identity is driven by how they remember certain experiences. Research suggests that there are 3 stages in how our memories are formed. The first stage is called encoding, which occurs when the brain processes all the information. This leads us to storage, which preserves information when our memory is used. And the final stage is retrieval, which is when we begin accessing the information. We can see a character like Will confronting his demons by reliving his nostalgic memories. And because those moments of strength were so significant to him, he continued holding on to them in case his fears ever needed company. And once he needed those memories to build the confidence, he retrieved them to take control and defeat the Demogorgons. Now, if we view these memories in a negative connotation, we can look into characters like Joyce, who has long regretted what happened to Will in the first season and doesn't wish to encode or retrieve even if it'll always be stored in her memory. In the most extreme cases of trauma, the memories we recall tend to be so strong that the emotions stay with us for much longer than we anticipate, meaning that with whatever burdens we may have, our minds can rationally understand that it's in the past, but our emotions feel like they're ever present. Will felt like he could only accept that he was nothing short of weak, and Vecna did nothing but confirm his insecurities.
Some minds, it turns out, simply do not belong in this world.
Vecna shaped a belief system that ultimately silenced his trauma so he can fester on the insecurities of others. For instance, when he conjures up his childhood neighborhood for the kids he captured, it is meant to be nothing short of delightful. Until we realize that the neighborhood is a trap and that his nostalgia is not just covered in trauma, but in deep, deep regret. And it's clear that with or without the Mind Flayer, the essence of validation is what he most desires.
He uses my memories against me. But only my darkest memories. It's like he only sees the darkness in us. So I'll just run in the opposite direction. Run to the light.
This extends to each character from Stranger Things, especially since they have dealt with memories that hindered their healing, which in turn is what the Mind Flayer most desires.
We are one.
Social scientist Janine LaSaletta discusses the more nostalgic side of memory in the context of musician Taylor Swift, illustrating how because our past makes the present more meaningful, there's definitely a subtle difference between an impactful memory and a nostalgic one. And luckily enough, I had the pleasure of speaking with her on the topic of nostalgia throughout this episode to learn more. When does an impactful memory, whether positive or negative, become nostalgic?
I think it becomes nostalgic when you can't redo it again.
Memories are a result of our experiences, and sometimes they are beyond our control. So whenever the characters are experiencing the wrath of a Demogorgon or the tenacity of a mind flayer, they understand that since they're the only people who can solve this mess, they take action, no matter how traumatic it may be. Chapter 2. Music.
Madonna, Blondie, Bowie, Beatles, music! We need music! This is music!
Musician Christopher Small coined the term musicking to emphasize one thing. His thoughts stem from an idea that music is more associated with practice than with a hobby, confirming that music is to take part. Music is first and foremost action. Psychologist Clay Routledge published a study in which participants either listened to music that transported them to a particular time or read the lyrics of older songs. The results showed that listening to music not only made them feel socially connected, but also increased their sense of meaning in life. Characters like Max use music as a form of withdrawal because it's a way to retrieve the normalcy from the real world since it was made in the real world.
Music has a way of finding you, even in the darkest of places.
When dealing with hardship, why do we turn to music?
When we are dealing with hardship, one reason we might turn to music is because, nostalgic music or music itself can evoke nostalgia. It's one of the best ways to trigger nostalgia. And it turns out that when music evokes nostalgia, it activates the places in the brain that are tied to our memories, self-reflection and emotion.
In the infamous Running Up That Hill scene, we have witnessed a version of Max who's been burdened with a lot of trauma and emotional baggage, only to realize that wallowing in the darkness, basking in the isolation, and becoming a shell of yourself brings you into further despair. And to me, the song itself can be interpreted as a never-ending quest to bring ease to our hardships.
For a while, I tried to be happy. Normal. But I think that maybe a part of me died that day too.
And in those moments of struggle, she went to the positive memories, the nostalgic memories, the memories she is most fond of because they brought her back to a sense of humanity that she had either been deprived of or forgotten. It's very easy to forget your memories, but it's even easier to ignore the positive ones, especially when you've experienced the trauma that Max had to deal with on a regular basis. It's well known that music has multiple functions in everyday life. Whether it's for creating mood states, regulating emotions, or simply as an escape, music is an effective tool for altering those emotions. Chapter 3. Nostalgia. So fun fact, nostalgia is based on the Greek words nostos, which means homecoming, and algos, which means pain or longing. The term was coined in the 1700s by a medical student named Johannes Hofer, who observed Swedish mercenaries experiencing a set of emotions unprecedented at the time, including fatigue, indigestion, and several cases of fevers. These causes arose because they were truly missing their homeland, which in turn prevented them from fulfilling their duties. And I have a feeling that since the night will disappeared, every character affected by this has become incredibly nostalgic for the times when Hawkins was just a boring city where nothing really happened.
The Demogorgon. It got me.
When Will realizes that he's a sorcerer, it stems from the acceptance he gave himself based on childhood memories of feeling like he truly belonged.
I'm not afraid anymore.
Nostalgia also plays within the gaps of illusion and reality. In the finale of Stranger Things, Mike builds a campaign that holds a lot of subtextual meaning by describing each of his friends' fates bar for bar, and his final hope is that Eleven is out there, somewhere. And whatever you may believe with regards to Eleven's fate, his nostalgia has become a coping mechanism that he can't shake away. And throughout the series, we repeatedly see a longing for things to return to the way they were.
What happened is not your fault. Elle made her choice. Now it's time for you to make yours.
How do you think Stranger Things will be remembered nostalgically 10 years from now?
Oh, the 80s seems so cool, you know? There's a lot of instability right now in the world too, right? So maybe when people think or look back, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember, 2025, 2026, like a period, there was a lot of stuff going on, but we had Stranger Things, we had that to look forward to, right?
I just wanted a normal childhood.
But that childhood was stolen from me. It was stolen from us. There's this game I like to play. It's called Dungeons and Dragons. There are 2 types of chaos classes, chaotic good and chaotic bad. Now, bad chaos brings anarchy, destruction, war. But good chaos can bring innovation, change. And when you get to know people who are different from you, you begin to learn more about yourself. You change. You grow. I'm a better person now. I'm a better person because of them. Because of my friends.
There are times when life can be challenging and your memories can make you feel like you have to learn a lesson at every step. But there's also a privilege behind that. The privilege to keep moving forward and having the chance to resist, reiterate, and refine all the goals you wish to accomplish and all the experiences you wish to have. Nostalgia can be beautiful. It can offer a realm of social connection while also presenting an abyss of unhealthy skepticism. The stories we construct from our day-to-day lives behave like a subjective scale. There are times when we weigh our memories on a positive note, but there are other times when the negatives crawl into our skin like a mind flayer ready to consume our every impulse. The truest way to experience life should be accompanied by an openness to new experiences and perspectives, just as the characters in Stranger Things navigated the Upside Down. And my recommendation to anyone out there who is feeling lost, worried, or frustrated from the past you've had to experience or the future you're afraid to experience. Remember that the past will complement everything that you've learned and the future will welcome you every step of the way. But what's most important is to remember that the present is only treasured when you treat it like a gift. And I say all of this because it's something that I believe.
I believe.
I believe. I believe.
I believe.
I believe.